Hey, my name is Ben.
And I'm Christian.
We're going to be talking about Aptive environmental. We'll give some background before identifying the problems and then explaining what plans we have made to improve these organizational behavior problems. So for some brief background, it's a decently large company. They've been around for about 5 years and they sell pest control door to door. They are based in Provo and they have about 3,000 sales employees in addition to service like customer service employees, operations management, actual applicators who apply the product that we sell. But there are some major problems behind the scenes. One is motivation. The second is there's really high turnover in the sales force. And the third is employee engagement, particularly in the winter and the spring months where the sales reps aren't actually selling door to door anymore. So I'll discuss some underlying causes. For motivation, one of the major causes is that the incentives produce short-lived motivation. For example, a regional manager will put out an incentive where if you can recruit a certain amount of people in 1 month, you will get a prize. However, as soon as the person has recruited this many people, motivation completely dies because they receive the prize. The second would be the demographics. Because most of the sales forces, they're college-age sales reps, this makes it hard to keep employees for a long time because they look at the job as a one and done job. They don't want to make it a career. And so there's really high turnover. And the third one is the employee engagement, like I mentioned, during the off season. So employees are afraid to recruit because summer sales has a bad rap. And they're either afraid of recruiting or they just don't like to do it. And so even if they work really hard during the summer months, during the off season, employee engagement is really low. And so let's look at some of the consequences of these problems. One, when motivation is sporadic, the employees don't perform at their best throughout the entire year, which obviously will decline production. And then the high turnover makes it so people don't invest into the company. Because they view it as a one and done job, they're not going to invest their time or their resources into the company. Therefore, it slows the company's growth. And so why is this change important? Well, if we were to increase the motivation, make it so that rather than having sporadic bursts of motivation and had it more long-term, people would perform better. That's obvious. With being invested in the company, they will sacrifice to increase production, and when there's better performance, you'll obviously have higher returns. And if we were able to decrease the turnover, then that would save the company a lot of money. One, the regional leaders would be able to spend their time training existing employees rather than recruiting new employees. And second, other managers wouldn't have to spend their time thinking about how to advertise the job to new sales reps. And then by increasing the employee engagement throughout the year, everybody will treat the job as more like an hourly job, and they will work throughout the entire year rather than just during the summer. So as far as organizational behavior terms goes, these topics, the motivation, the turnover, and the employee engagement fall under these three categories as well. It's the influence strategy is related to motivation. If we change the culture, the turnover would decrease. And then if we change the job design, employees would be engaged throughout the entire year. So here's one personal experience that I have working at Aptive. Just 2 months ago, my regional manager put out an incentive, and he told us that if we could get 6 people to just meet for an informational meeting, then he would buy us a MacBook Pro. So what did I do? I reached out to as many people as possible. I got 6 meetings within the first 2 weeks of the month, and I got the incentive. I won it. But the rest of the month, I wasn't really motivated to keep going, which sounds ridiculous because of how much they are giving. But just the way that the incentives are set up, it leads to high engagement for a short amount of time, high motivation, but then it dies off right after you get the incentive. And then the second personal experience is in my team. Well, actually, being an Aptive, I know that 70% of the sales force are new employees every single year. That means only 30% of them stay after their second year. So this is a huge problem related to organizational behavior that needs to be solved. So our desired future state is, we want to, rather than always focusing on getting new employees, we want to refine our current employees. We want people to view this as a sustainable source of income rather than just a one and done job. And we want employees to invest in the company so that it may continue to grow and grow more quickly.
So whose help do we need with this? Well, first, we're going to start with the regional managers. Regional managers are extremely important because they're the ones that do the meetings, and they're the ones that pitch to new employees. Second, we're going to need the help of team leads. Team leads are the people that lead the groups when you're out in the summer, and they kind of are in charge of the morale and just the way that the whole team is working. So with changing how they view the job, that it's not just a summer thing and everything happens year round, it's going to be instrumental in changing the workforce's opinion. And lastly, we're going to need the executives. The executives obviously have all the money, and those are the ones that we're really trying to change so that we can influence and change the culture. So we want the executives to find ways to involve employees to make it more of a year-round job and maybe restructure those incentives. So what is the plan to get that help? We're going to emphasize the time, right? Ben was talking about how much time is spent doing those recruiting meetings. Time is money, and executives will understand that. When we show them the employee turnover, they see the numbers of 70% of them are new employees every summer. So if we can lower the time that we are taking to recruit every year, we're going to increase the amount of time that can be spent rather on the company itself and the company's growth. We're going to do surveys to show engagement in the winter and the spring, just to show that these employees do view the job as a one and done. And so we're just gathering data to show the executives exactly what we want them to see. Now it comes down to convincing the organization of its urgency. Numbers are everything, and everybody is going to be behind the numbers, especially in sales, when they see how much is going to benefit them with the change in culture. Instead of having once you have a guy that joins, instead of having him quit after just 1 year, you'll have him get other people, and that in turn helps you. So that also goes into incentives. We can restructure the incentives. Instead of being Instead of being a short-term thing, we can make them more of a long-term. Restructure them so that it's focused on spending more time within the company and changing those numbers within the company itself. The actions to be taken are gathering the data, and this is important to understand what motivates our employees. This goes under the engagement and all of that we talked about previously. We're going to present the data to leadership, and this is to get the support of management and those executives that we were also talking about. The last thing is create new expectations in the new culture. Changing the culture is going to be absolutely key because you're going to have to retrain your employees and retrain expectations. Instead of, go back for 1 minute. Thank you. Instead of focused on just getting meetings, we're going to focus on getting 20 hours of work and then in the month, and maybe also setting up 5 meetings in order to earn those things. And we're good. Lastly, we come down to the general timeline of things. We're going to first ask corporate to send out those surveys. Second, schedule an appointment to review those surveys and the data. And third, relay the results to management. Following that, we're going to propose the changes to the motivation, leadership, and culture to the regional managers, the team leads, and learn how we're going to implement those changes. We also want to be we also want to focus on the follow-ups. Following up 3 months, 6 months later to keep an eye on where that change is going to be absolutely key for the success in the new implementation of the culture. This also gives us an opportunity to meet with management and show the progress, also make those necessary adjustments. Thank you.